I always debate that, Dan. You and I have gotten into this before. The economy as strong as it is, markets as strong as they are. Not that the market should dictate policy, but wouldn't you want to save those arrows in that limited quiver?
Yes, you would. I think this would be a waste of ammunition for the Fed to raise rates. Obviously, they're going to do it. That's where all the indicators are going. I don't think it's the right time. Look, I think he made a mistake in raising rates some months back, and now he may be trying to make up for that. And I still think that the president has gotten in his ear to some extent. Everybody's been talking about it. He's not going to admit to it, but I think President Trump has done enough to, I don't want to say intimidate him, but he's just in the back of his mind.
Yeah, we were showing expectations. The market that literally bet money on this, that show expectations of a quarter-point cut in rates at the end of this month, much more so than a half-point cut. What do you make of that? I guess building consensus.
Yeah, the market, people in this town generally always love rate cuts, and now they're expecting one after those comments.
Where are you, James? I mean, I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, and Deidre and I got into this past weekend, but, you know, there's not a real big compelling reason to do it.
I don't see it. And I don't think this is happening or will happen if it does because Mr. Powell's been intimidated by President Trump. I think based on how he views inflation, not the way I view it, this is the appropriate move perhaps. But that comment you mentioned where he said when someone asked the question, how do you know what you're doing? He said, look at the economy.
Right.
He has, I thought, been a more modest Fed chair. I wanted the Fed to get out of the idea that they're managers of the economy, stick to their job keeping stable prices.
That was clearly a zing at the president.
It was.
Right? And this guy's taking a bow for everything that's going on. And if we didn't have a supportive or accommodative Fed, none of this would happen. Now, people can politically disagree and all, but I thought that was his little back at you.
Yeah, and I don't, to your point, I don't see the huge case for a rate cut. If you look at where inflation is versus the federal funds rate, that funds rate is not historically high. No. I don't hear about businesses saying I would invest if I could get a quarter point less on the financing. I think the issue, as he talked about, it's trade. It's resolving these China disputes, et cetera, and that's really not his job.
Although he did say, because I wrote it down, something like business investment across the U.S. have slowed notably recently as uncertainties over the economic outlook linger. So it wasn't over the economy. It was over, to me, what I heard was potentially, to your point about trade, what could happen.
Yeah, but what if we get a deal? What if we get a deal?
Well, then I think that capital expenditure, which we're all concerned about, has been soft. It just takes off. I think this economy is in great shape.
You won't get a rate cut.
I don't think the economy needs a rate cut.
If we take
the trade
take one of the
threat out of the
excuses
picture
for a rate cut, the uncertainty about a trade, away if you get a deal.
If you get a trade deal, I don't think there's any problem. There's a competitive tax rate. There's a good regulatory environment. If we have free and open trade, we can finally get out of the era where people are looking to the Fed for growth.
You know, Dan, the one thing and you know Wall Street so well, and you're very successful at investing. Normally, when rate cuts start, it's not good for stocks. There's a delay, 3 to 6 months, depending. But when markets get a better sense of it, obviously it's telegraphing a slowdown or the Fed is worried about something. Net, not really good. So are they getting ahead of themselves?
I think they are, Neil. I think what's happening now is all the rules and all the historical things that have happened are out the window. To me, we are in an area on Wall Street and in the market where we are seeing things that simply should not be happening. All these rules and economic factors just don't seem to be taking hold the way they used to. And that's making for a very unpredictable environment for investors, other than right now, things just keep going up no matter what's happening in the world or with the economy.
I mean, the Fed, love them or hate them, have a pretty difficult job. I mean, since 1960, I think we've engineered a soft landing twice, right? So if you look at all those decades and think, okay, there's general consensus that 2 times a Fed has actually kind of landed this plane easily.
It's tough to do.
The statistics are against the Fed.
All right, but the message from the chairman of the Federal Reserve is, I'm not going anywhere. Stay tuned. And he all but told the President of the United States, no, nothing on good trade. Something like that. A little more after this. The Dow, 99 points.